So I'm Itamar, one of the founders of Argent. Who has used Argent in the past? Ooh, that will make the talk much less interesting, I think. Because most of the talk is a demo of Argent, but we'll still do it for the few people who haven't downloaded it yet. And then we can go a bit on what's under the hood, the technical architecture behind Argent. Is it more of who is more on the tech side? Okay. So hopefully there will be interesting stuff for everyone. So maybe we can start of why we started Argent. So we come from a very consumer background. My previous company was a very large mobile. We were the largest mobile brain training company, peak. We had 60 million users. So we were super focused on building beautiful application that anyone could use. And then when I fell in love with crypto, I realized this experience was a nightmare, and there is no way 1 billion people would use crypto if it was so easy to lose assets. I mean, 20 years telling my mom to not write passwords in her agenda on a post-it, and now we tell people to write their seed on a piece of paper. And it's still way too scary to transact. One typo, you lose your funds. Getting your head around gas price, etc. It's hard. And then interaction with dApps we felt was not where it should be. For us, it might be normal to do an ERC20 approve. Actually, most of you might not even realize you are approving 10 to the 50, like 1 trillion ERC20. So you allow the dApps to take all of your tokens. It's not where it should be. So we started Argent to solve that. And really what we ask ourselves is, can we make an experience that feels similar to all the nice neobanks? So could we build something as slick as Revolut, Monzo, N26, Robinhood, but by being non-custodial? So really the key feature of Argent, like recovery of your funds in a way that feels intuitive. Can you block fraudulent transaction? Freeze your account, have trusted contact, get rid of transaction fees, get rid of cryptic address. We shouldn't be writing long public address to send money. And so that's what we did. So now I'll jump to the demo, which I think will be the easiest way, and giving people time to come in. Who said people were not fighting to get in? They were still, Welcome, everyone. So you didn't miss anything. We're kind of saying that Argent was there to solve all the friction, all the usability and security issue in crypto, and then jumping on the demo. So perfect timing. So when you look at Argent, feels like a quite normal wallet. There is a private key in your phone, but there is no assets on the private key in my phone. My assets are on a smart contract that have been put on Ethereum for myself, and I'm the only owner. So the private key in my phone is a remote control to that smart contract. And so the first thing we did is really look at the security model. Basically, the way Argent works is exactly like your bank. When you have your wallet in your pocket, you lose your money. You lose your wallet, you call your bank, you tell them, freeze my card, get me a new one. You have trusted your bank to do that. Argent is the same process, but you decide who you trust. So it can be friends and family. So 100 demo I did, I never figured out how to stop the notification, by the way. In non-disturb mode, doesn't work. So you can trust friends and family. You can have a hardware wallet. So if you have $1 million in Argent, you could have 3 hardware wallets. You could have 5 hardware wallets, basically any Ethereum address or third-party service. And you trust these parties to help you in case of problems. So recovery, get back your money. They don't have your funds. They don't have access to your funds. They don't have your key. They don't have a split of your key. They really have their own address, and you really tell your smart contract, I will trust my guardian. In case of issue, they can trigger a recovery. And again, it doesn't have to be other people. It can be yourself with another device, another address. So we started with that. Made several $100,000 in recovery, so it's very quick for people to lose their phone, and sometimes the same person. So it really works, it's slick, it feels very intuitive. So after that, recovery, security was the first step. So of course you can send money. So let's send a DAI, and I will go quite quick to show how easy it is. I will send one DAI to Gerald, my co-founder. And so look at that screen. That's the confirmation screen just before finalizing my payment. There is no Ethereum address. So gerald.argent.xyz is an ENS. Every single user in Argent gets an ENS for free. There's no gas. You don't decide if you want slow, fast. It's completely abstracted. And in that case, actually, it's subsidized by Argent. So we pay for the gas. You send money like you send it in Venmo or in whatever app. Done. I've just sent my first DAI. Where it gets more interesting, and I will need someone's help, does someone has an Ethereum address on their phone? So any QR code of an Ethereum wallet. In the meantime, I can show you, for example, we also have a DEX. So we integrate with Kyber Network. It's all native, so you can buy any token you want. Let's not buy Binance, but I can buy 5 DAI. Done. It takes 3 seconds. There's no easier way to buy tokens. So who got a QR code for me?
Non-Argent?
Anything, doesn't matter. You have one there. I will need your phone here. There's a cable here. So let's send money to the QR code. So it's live. You can see the camera. I'm scanning that QR code. I don't know you. Actually, know you, but meaning assume I don't know you. And so I'm getting ready. So I have 200 ETH. I topped up for the demo, more money this time than last time. So let's send it to 215. So I will send 215 ETH, $39,000. Continue. So you remember, that's the final screen. I love that part of the demo. Final screen, I'm sending 2015 ETH to that address. Send. And what's happening now? So the transaction is being stopped, not by my phone, not by our backend. It's the smart contract. So the smart contract sees a large transfer to an address I don't trust. Basically, you can go through, so you can have control of my private key, try to drain the account, the smart contract will block it. I get alerted, I have 24 hours to come back and cancel that transaction. And that's exactly how your bank would do. If someone tries to drain your bank account to a new address, transfer everything to a new bank account, it's very likely they will call you. And this is all being done in a fully trustless way in the smart contract. So security model, you don't have to worry about anything. Everything is easy, no gas. We got rid of the seed phrase, et cetera, et cetera. Where it gets interesting is when you look at more complex use case. So sorry, I'm not getting the... So who has opened a Maker CDP here in their life? A few people. You are used to it, but it's a bit painful. There are 7 transactions. They reduced it with the proxy to 4 or 5. You have to wrap your ETH in wet. You have to get PET. You have to approve stuff. I mean, it's quite difficult. So I'll open a Maker CDP because it's the most complex use case. So I'll get started. I will put a collateral. I'll pick, I want 93 DAI. I'll review my loan. I take my loan. So I've just opened a Maker CDP in 5 seconds. That's how easy it is with Argent. And then the transaction has to mine, etc. But that's all. I have nothing else to do. I want to grow my holding, so I want to put money in savings. I can put money in compound. I want to put some DAI and get 9.8%. Here I'm putting 100 DAI. I save. I've just put money in compound. And that's how easy it is. So even this complex use case are all orchestrated by your wallet. Because it's a smart contract, you are basically telling your wallet, I want a Maker CDP, and the smart contract will take care of all these complex steps. I think that's a good overview. I'll give you a link for those who don't have access. So we have a waiting list. I'll give you a link at the end of the talk to get access and skip the queue in Argent. So let's get back about what's under the hood. So as mentioned, there is a private key in your phone. With that private key, you sign an intent. And then we will relay that to the blockchain. Your smart contract receives that order, that intent signed by your key, says, OK, that's the owner. He has the right to give me that order. I execute. So very, very simple model. But then, I won't go too much into detail maybe, but we can discuss after the talk for those who are more technical. What what's quite special about our smart contract, it's a very modular architecture. So when you get Argent, you get a base wallet where your funds, and that's really your identity. And then we have a set of modules that are authorized for your wallet. Guardian Manager, Recovery, Token Exchange. So every specific feature has its own module. They all accept meta transaction, and they are shared between all these logics, shared between all the wallets. So why is that interesting? So when you want to make an upgrade, for example, you are not switching the entire code of your smart contract, switching the library and pointing to something else. You're actually just authorizing a new module. You don't change the other module. If you want, you can add a new functionality that way. So when we launch Maker, the user could add that new module. Only the user can do it. We cannot do it. But there is an Argent registry, so you can only authorize modules that are within the Argent registry. So it helps for the audit. It's very good separation of concern. The base wallet is very small. Where your funds are, it's like less than 100 lines. And each module would be less than 500 lines. So literally very easy to understand, to read, and to audit. And that was probably the first driver that pushed us to do that. So why is that important for DeFi? So we build DeFi modules. So we have Compound, we have Maker, and it's really the module that will orchestrate everything. So as a result, you do everything in one transaction, super easy. You improve security. So for example, there is no 10 to the 59th approval of your ERC20. The module will approve exactly what's needed, and then you can start to mix and match different protocols into the same for the same feature. So the best example is Maker, because it's actually one of the most complex. So when you open a Maker CDP with a traditional way, there are 7 steps, 7 transactions. They recently launched a proxy, which reduced it to 4 or 5, and you are interacting with these 3 different smart contracts built by Maker. So if you think about it as Lego blocks, you have 3 Lego blocks, and you have to interact separately with each of them, and every transaction needs to be mined one by one. You need to do each step in the right order. So when you use Argent, so that's my base wallet, but I actually ask the module manager, the Maker manager, to execute that for me, and I do only one transaction. And then the module will organize everything in the same block, in the same transaction. Literally, will take all these 7 steps. So the difference is that it looks like that. Instead of having 3 blocks that are fully separated, we have the Argent block that is the glue that will automate everything and orchestrate this whole process. And that's how you saw me opening the CDP. It was 1 tap and literally 1 Ethereum transaction. Where it gets more interesting, it's closing a CDP. So when you close a CDP, it's a bit more complex, because you need MKR to pay for your interest, you need DAI to pay for the borrow amount, and you might not have that. So in the case of Argent, did I skip? No, in the case of Argent, we have added other blocks. So in this case, it's Uniswap. So when you tap close on your phone in Argent, you might have only ETH. If you have only ETH, the smart contract will take the right amount of ETH, exchange it to DAI in Uniswap, will take another amount of ETH, exchange it to MKR in Uniswap, pay back your loan, and then close the CDP. Again, in one transaction, all that orchestrated within that. That's really, I would say, the key to what we do. Is it applies to DeFi, it applies to other things. So one big next step, we are working on more generalized dApp interaction. So we'll implement Wallet Connect. And that means outside of Argent. So the DeFi integration tends to go within Argent. We feel there are features of the app. It's a financial product. You expect to be able to trade, to invest. But then you will have a more open world of any dApp that you can interact with through Wallet Connect. And we are doing that, again, in quite different ways. So when you will, for example, do an approve on a dApp, near C20 approve for a dApp, you will be able to control how much you want to approve. Again, and the daily limit will be applied. So if a dApp asks for 1 million DAI, it would take 24 hours unless you whitelist the dApp. So the entire security model of Argent will also apply to dApp interaction. And we are also working on a fiat to crypto on-ramp with a focus on stablecoins. So I think now we can talk about days or max 2 weeks. In the US, you will be able to just top up your wallet in USDC, no fees. You will just put $1,000, have $1,000 in your wallet, which we believe that's how people should join crypto. When you put $1,000 in Revolut, you don't end up with $950. That's it. So if you want to follow us, Argent HQ is the right way. If you want to download Argent, you can try to scan that QR code, but with the contrast, and you might be far, or you use the link argent.link/DeFi. That will allow you to download the app and allow you to skip the queue. If you're already in the queue, you use the same link, and it will skip the queue straight away. And that's it. Yeah, now it's the end. So I'm not sure if there are any questions. It's okay, you can clap. Yeah, let's jump.
Yeah, hi. I was just curious, how do you monetize the project? In other words, what do users actually pay for this convenience, especially that you subsidize the gas fees?
So it's a good question. We get it every week on Twitter. So first, gas fees are lower than the 15 engineers. It's less expensive than 15 engineers working on it. So people worry about that, but actually people don't transact that much. They tend to hold money, then put it in compound or hold ETH, and then do a few tradings. So gas hasn't been a problem so far. We'll implement a fair use policy, so there's really a max per user per month. We're still working on that. Right now, it's everything. So we are VC funded. So we have traditional investors, no ICO, we have a company, and we raise money for that. But gas is really not the problem right now. There are some business models quite small right now in place, but it's enough already to cover that. So for example, on token exchange, we use Kyber Network, and then we get a small fee. It's small, but that helps cover, even at scale, would help cover gas costs. Yep.
Sure.
I think they were.
Hi, really interesting presentation. Just wonder what kind of consumer protection features you have baked into the business model of the product. And I guess there's two parts to it. One is for the components that you offer, the smart contracts that you configure, and then secondly for the third-party smart contracts that you integrate with. If something goes wrong, how can I be sure that the assets I put into the platform are safe?
So do you mean from a technical perspective, more insurance type of?
I mean, really, from the perspective of a consumer that would consider this a sort of banking type product.
So we are basically talking to. We are looking at several insurance options. There are decentralized type of options, like Nexus Mutual. We're also talking to high street insurer because the amounts are much larger than what other projects for now can do. We are looking at the scope of Argent. So the whole Argent architecture, all our smart contract, and the idea is really to replicate the FCA or the FDIC type of cover. At the same time, we talk to our DeFi partners. I can't talk on their behalf, but they are doing the same work than we are doing. So I believe our goal is by maybe mid-next year, at some point next year, to be able to offer an end-to-end insurance, including core features. You cannot insure all the dApps across the world, but you could say, what I would like to say, to tell users is like the savings account feature, end-to-end insures, put money in the savings account and you are covered. We're also exploring a bit, so we're a big fan of DAI, but we're also looking at USDC. What can it offer? USDC is actually very different than DAI, and that might enable for non-crypto users some kind of extra cover. Yep.
So your wallet's a smart contract. I just wondered if there were any pain points. You can't just take a private key and then put it into MetaMask, for example. Will you have to build a module for every new smart contract or protocol you want to implement? Do you see this as slowing you down in the future, or is this just a core part of your security, and any problems you just say, well, it's worth it in the long run?
So we will not implement 1,000 protocols natively. So that's why we're working on Wallet Connect. But think about just we are working on the ability to sign any transaction you want as a user. So to interact with any smart contract. Wallet Connect is the interface. It could be a dApp browser. It's not an experience we believe strongly in. We think people should be anywhere. But so basically, you will be able to go on Zerion, interact with their interface because maybe your trader wants a much more advanced interface. You go on Zerion, you sign transaction with your Argent wallet. It's more of an identity layer. So when we think about us as building the Revolut of the future, and instead of spending 2 years building a savings account by plumbing so many providers, getting agreement in place, we just have a permissionless world where we say, oh, that protocol is pretty good to build that feature. We don't need to build it from scratch. Let's implement it. So if it belongs in the wallet, if it makes sense for the user to do that within the wallet, it's a native integration. If not, you use more Argent as an identity and a payment method to interact with a third-party dApp or protocol.
Thanks.
Thanks very much for the presentation. Apart from the small fees that you get from exchanging tokens, what are some of the other kind of revenue streams or business models that you have?
So there's right now live in the app nothing. It's still such a nascent world. We want to to grow much more. We're exploring, but we also don't want to do the same mistake. So I'm happy to answer the question because we don't want to do the same mistake of the past and just get 1 billion users and then say, oh, I turned that on and now you're screwed. So we want what you have now in the app. We want to keep it that way. We want to then implement. We are exploring things like subscription. So we like the idea of user paying for value they get. So it could be simply like Revolut Premium, like a Robinhood Gold, where you get something extra, maybe free trading, maybe access to more features because you have subscription model in place. We think in DeFi there will be more opportunities. So we are thinking about stuff like could we optimize the yield so you get best interest rate and then we can take a cut because you are winning there. So I would say end of next year is when we'll start thinking more actively about that. But we think if you own the relationship with the user is really where you can capture value. Thank you. Over there, and a few. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, one more question from me. On the MakerDAO integration, I was just actually curious, how do you handle liquidations and what would the user experience in case of the emergency shutdown?
So liquidation, really, in some way, it's not handled by us. One project we have is to be able to warn you in advance when you get closer. So right now, what we have is based on the loan to collateral ratio. We will tell you that's quite risky or not. So it's quite simple. But the idea is we could monitor constantly and tell you are getting close to liquidation. There are also things that could be done. We could have a liquidity pool so that we help you basically close the loan even if you don't have enough DAI or ETH and then get back the money on collateral. So we are looking at it closely and we'll decide when to prioritize. I would say Maker for us is not yet very big. It's a complex use case. So we're thinking, should we, instead of offering directly the leverage feature, where you just say, okay, I want to leverage. It does Maker in the background, does Uniswap to get your back more ETH. So I don't know if that answered the question. No. Partly?
It's very basic right now, right?
Yeah, the Maker integration, it's the simplest way to open and close it. I would say it that way. There's not yet much more layers. And the next one would probably warning you when you're getting close to liquidation.
I mean, the reason I'm asking this is that, it's not that simple, right? And just allowing users that do not have a lot of experience with crypto accessing directly with Maker, that can be actually quite risky. And the Maker protocol is designed for sophisticated users that would potentially build a second layer infrastructure for other users, right? That don't have enough experience. I was just sort of curious about your approach, giving direct access to the Maker protocol and sort of following up on the consumer protection question. That is interesting. I'm sort of curious. It's not an easy problem to tackle.
So I agree. The answer is I agree with you. It's a much more complex and advanced product. That's why it's also less. It's not. We have much less users using that than just the savings account feature. And I would say it's a question we ask ourselves a lot, especially once we start having an on-ramp, because then you have non-crypto users that can get in. The answer is today we don't do enough, but it's definitely an area we agree more should be done. I think someone there. No? Not anymore?
I was telling you have 5 minutes, but
Oh.
now you have 2.
2 minutes, yeah.
Anyone else? Yeah. And don't hesitate to go find me after the talk anyway, if you have more questions.
I'd love it if you could just kind of list off the top 10 DeFi products that are going to be the killer apps for DeFi, in your humble opinion.
I would open a VC fund if I knew. So I like lending because it's a very clear offering. We need to communicate risk very well on your point, but it's easy to understand is you put money somewhere and you get an interest rate. Even if it's variable, it's easy to understand. That's one I like. I like Set Protocol a bit for the same reason. It's more complex, but it simplifies a complex thing. So you have a trading strategy that might be very complex, and basically you are just buying the same way you would put money into an index or an ETF, and you don't have to worry about anything. It's fully managed for you. Matthew, Olivier, any other idea? What are we looking at in DeFi? But that's for me in the lending part. We are looking. So basically, I would say also lending yield optimizer for lending. We are talking to many of them, but at the same time, we think arbitrage will do a good work. So will we just end up with the same rates across? But again, that could be a nice way. Our DAI, I think there's something interesting, can enable new business model. Last question. Yep.
Sure. Have you guys been audited? The
Yes.
smart
So we
contracts?
had triple audits back in 2018, so the end of last year. And then we had additional one on when we launched the new modules. Yeah, so that's a short answer. And there will be more because I think people always feel good about having more. And that's also why we had a wait list. So we really had now almost, we had a year to battle test it basically now. Okay, go find me after the talk. And sorry, well, after the talk we can chat. Thank you.